Welcome, everyone, to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I'll be your mindset coach this evening. So, today we're going to be talking about some news, and we're going to be talking about how the system is failing and what we can do about it. Because when we have a problem, we need to also have a solution. And so, what we're going to do today is to look at the problems and then to look at the solutions that are going to be most suitable for what we're going to be dealing with. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things that videos like. And let's get into it. So we're going to continue with our search for looking for what is happening on all the mainstream media networks. And that's going to be CNN, Fox, ABC, and we're going to see what they're talking about. And then we're going to be tying it in to the economy. And the Feds just came out the other day, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday, and they came out with a plan so they can help cope with the inflation problem we're having. Because inflation is the highest it's been since, I believe, 1982. And it's causing a lot of problems because now people need to go to work and unemployment is not enough for you because if you're making $300 and you're like, okay, well, this is barely enough for me to get by. And then now inflation kicks in, you're like, whew, I don't even have any money to do the things that I used to do. So now we have to go to work. Even if we only make $350, it's more than what the government will give us for staying home. And I know it was nice in the beginning of the pandemic when people got an extra $300. And it wasn't nice that people had to stay home. It wasn't nice that people lost their jobs. I'm not saying it's nice because of that, but it was nice that the government did step in, sort of, right, and help out some people. Now, we know that wasn't enough help, but it was something. And now people are finally getting to the point where they're saying, hey, I need to work. I need to get back at it and figure out life. And what many Americans have for them right now is they have a low debt because they use that time during the quarantine to not pay their mortgage, but to pay off their credit cards. Or they use the money coming in, maybe it might have been extra money, and they said, I don't want any debt. So by the time everything was said and done and everything was reopening, now I can be debt free in a sense. You might still have student loans and you still might have a mortgage, but credit card debts are going to be one of those things you want to stay away from. So let's get into the news and figure out what's really going on with the system. So of course we start with CNN, and we're just going to talk about one news story per site. So CNN, they're talking about COVID cases, how New York has a record high of COVID cases, and the NFL is going to be postponing some games. Whoop-de-doo. Now, over at InfoWars, there was this one story that I want to talk about. So de Blasio pitch to unvax. Now your paycheck depends on it. So we have to get a vaccine in order for us to have a paycheck. And I want to talk to you about that because this is a limiting mindset. And when people are going to be talking about if you want a paycheck, you need to get a vaccine. Now, I was in a similar situation where I was working for a company 9 to 5 and making decent money. It wasn't anything special, but it was enough to pay all the overhead. And when they went to a full mandatory vax, I had the choice, get the vaccine or to lose the job. And I chose to lose the job. And it wasn't because I didn't want to get the vaccine, even though I didn't want to get the vaccine. It was because I don't like to be bullied into doing something because someone says so. Call me stubborn. But what happened was, if I went ahead and got that vaccine, I would have to get every vaccine after that. So all the boosters, because it's a company policy now. Now in Texas, Governor Abbott came out saying that there will be no mandates, but but it doesn't mean that a company can't say, "Hey, you're going to still be required to get this." Now, it is medical discrimination, but is that really against the law? I mean, we can argue, we can take it to court, but if someone doesn't want to hire you, they can make up whatever reason. So when I was offered the choice to stay in the position or to leave it, it was a no-brainer almost. And I know many people are not in the situation that I am, was in or could have been in. I had some money put away. I have my own business, and I'm able to pivot easily. I can pivot doing this, I can pivot doing that. I have amassed an abundance of skills, and I can use the skills that I have gained over the years in different ways. Maybe I don't want to do my business anymore, and I say, I don't want to do my business anymore. I'm going to go back to teaching. And I go to the college level. I become a college professor, and I start teaching education to college students who want to be teachers. I could do that with a snap of a finger. But I don't do that because what I want to accomplish in my life is more than just teaching college students. I want to help influence the world to start to think in a different way. And for de Blasio to come out and say that your paycheck depends on a vaccine, that's wrong. That's a limited mindset type of thinking. Who is he to tell me what I can and can't accomplish with my life? Because he's the same type of person who, if someone gets in a car accident and the doctor says, well, you're not going to be able to walk anymore, he's going to come in the room and he's going to say this, hey man, I'm sorry, but that sucks. If I went in the room, I'll ask how they're doing and I'll say, when are you ready to get back up and start walking? There's a big difference between those type of people and people who want to help you get into a better life, a better mindset. Because someone who's willing to help you get out of negativity, that's someone you want in your corner. So when we look at people like this who say, your life depends on this, your livelihood depends on this, doesn't sound like a person I want in my corner. Then we head over to BBC News. And I wanted to talk about this TikTok thing, about things that are happening in the schools, whether it be bullying or trends. Now, typically when you have a incident, we're going to call it an incident, and this is the incident right here for anyone who's watching on video. Those type of incidents, you're going to have copycats. And those copycats will want attention. Now, many of these students, many of the kids don't understand what this attention is bringing them. It could be negativity. It could be a type of revenge that they feel like they need, but is going to be operating under a negative type of mindset. So this type of mindset we want to stay away from. But when they post it and they put it out front and center, now people start thinking, oh, I'm upset. Someone did this to me. And now it's front and center. And I'm not saying that we should hide our feelings, hide our emotions, because that's far from the truth. We need to understand very well our emotions and who we are as people. And then as parents, we need to understand our children. And I think that's where that is failing. Parents are not able to see that their children are going through some struggles, going through some problems. And that's that trend right here. Moving over to ABC, we have, of course, again, COVID cases going up. Then we have in Fox, the news story I want to talk about is I think it's the rare side effects of COVID, but It's a lot of COVID, right? We're going down the list of all the major news publications. We talk about the mainstream media, New York Times. Hospitals are filled, and now there's a crisis. And then same thing here. Hospitals, hospitalizations rise across the United States before the holidays. Right now, we're looking at, oh man, I need to be worried. I need to be concerned about going to Nana's before Christmas because I don't want to get Nana sick. And I guess I'm just going to have to cancel Christmas. Okay. This is all a control. For people who say you can or can't do something, remember, I just said it. You put that person in a special corner, in a corner of I'll listen to you, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do what you say. And for people who say, oh, it's so dangerous out there, it's not. It's not. Because they can put whatever they want to make you believe is so bad. And then the solution is to get the shot. Now, I want to talk about the failing system. If you saw the thumbnail for the podcast, it's a $50 bill on fire. And that is not for dramatic effect. That is not to scare you, to say your money is worthless and you need to burn it. I don't want that to happen. But we need to understand what is a possible outcome for the raise in inflation. And if we look back at the Great Depression, the reason they say it happened was because of the stock market crash. Now we know that a stock market crash typically doesn't happen overnight. It happens because a set amount of cause and effect. So now we have inflation, and we're going to be talking about that. So the inflation, they were talking about it on Thursday, and they have a plan to roll out higher interest rates. And when they tried to do this early in 2020, I believe, they encountered some problems. So the Fed backed off and they said, hey, we don't want any problems. So we are going to make sure that we don't raise anything. We're going to keep everything low. Everyone's happy, right? No crashes. That's what they did. No crashes. But now they have a plan. They have a set rollout of increases in what the interest rate's going to be. And they're going to be separating between 3 years about. Now, will the crash happen before 3 years? It's likely, but it depends on how bad inflation gets and how much money Americans have saved. And I'm going to be talking about why that is the case. Because if we look at the Great Depression, the stock market crash that happened in 1926, the reason why we were able to get out of it is because of the New Deal and the World War II. Now, the New Deal is going to be what President Franklin Roosevelt came out with to counteract the effect of what was happening. Just a little bit of history. And the way they did that was using loans and reducing unemployment. Now, unemployment's already pretty low. They've been working on that. But then they're talking about giving loans, grants. Well, let's look about how much is the United States in debt, right? They are in debt 22 point something trillion. Just rough numbers. Then we talk about, well, if the national debt is $22 trillion, what is the current limit? And that's going to be $28.4 trillion. So we are going to be $6.4 trillion, give or take, away from our debt ceiling. What does that mean? And we have to understand what that means, because if we don't know what that means, then we can't find a solution for what's going to happen next. So now we have all these problems, right? We have high debt. We have a debt ceiling that's going to be approaching quickly. And if we think that $6 trillion is a lot of money, look at Biden, his his green bill or his new green bill, whatever it was 3.5 trillion, right? And it had many things in it, but they are spending like there's no debt ceiling. They're like, well, we just need this much money. Where the money goes, that's for another day. But what is happening is we're approaching that debt ceiling. Now there's a problem. What would happen if we reach that debt ceiling and we need loans in order to bail out the stock market, right? People are afraid. They say, well, guess what? We're going to let the stock market crash, and the federal government doesn't have any money to bail us out. Mayhem. People are going to lose their minds. Say goodbye to your 401k, say goodbye to all your savings. It's going to be nothing. So what can we do in order to cope that, right? And the best way I can tell people to do that is to keep on doing what you're doing. Number one, you want to eliminate all type of personal debt. So that's going to include student loans. That's going to include credit card debt if you have it. And you want to make sure you're not taking any personal debt. Now, if you have a home that has a mortgage, keep that, right? That's fine. Now, if you bought a home on a 30-year fixed, okay, shouldn't buy a home on a 30-year fixed. You should buy your home on a 15-year. But if you bought it on a 30-year, not the end of the world. You can pay it off before then. But typically you want to pay it off as soon as possible. So for the people who have a 30-year fixed, right? For the people who have credit card debt, for the people who have student loan debt, what's going to happen when inflation gets to a point, maybe it is already there, now you're struggling, you're kind of choosing what bills need to be paid. Do I pay the light bill? Do I pay the water bill? Do I pay the gas bill? Do I pay the mortgage? We have to pay the mortgage, otherwise you're going to be in foreclosure. And then you also have to save money for the taxes. Now, for many people, they don't know too much about the housing market. And when the interest rates were so low, they were like 1.75% or 1.5%. And they were like, the interest rates are so low, it would be insane not to buy a home. But they buy a home on a 30-year fix. So they have to have mortgage insurance. And if they don't pay 20% down. So they kind of win, they kind of don't. They are under the impression, well, let me buy it when I can versus when I can't. And the housing market is in a bubble per se, right? If we look at, for example, Robert Kiyosaki, he says there's going to be a crash, right? And what type of crash is it going to be? Is it going to be a housing crash? Is it going to be a banking crash? Is it going to be a stock market crash? What crash do we need to be prepared for? And we're going to have a very unique type of crash coming up, and it's going to be a foreclosure crash. That means there's going to be a mass amount of foreclosures coming in the next year or so. And I don't know how much money Americans have saved. If you have a good amount saved and you can get past this crash, and your house won't go under foreclosure under any circumstance, maybe your home's already paid off, don't refinance it if that's the case, then you're going to be okay. For the people who bought a home on a whim, maybe they had this idea in their head, oh, it's cheaper to have a home than it is to rent. And though that breakdown does make sense, I'm not going to say it's illogical, because in a sense, when you're renting, you are giving money away that could be used for a mortgage. It's not throwing money away. Now, there is a calculation that you can do in order to decide or determine if you should rent or if you should buy. Now, when you're a homeowner, it's different than if you are a renter. If you're a renter, something breaks, you call the landlord, talk to the property manager, and you say, hey, this is broken. I need someone to come out and fix it. Okay, they come out, they fix it, you carry on for a day. Now, if you're a homeowner, the AC goes out. Well, there goes $3,000 to $5,000. Did you have $3,000 to $5,000 saved, or did you have to use $3,000 to $5,000 in credit card loans, or and create that type of debt? Because debt is going to be the problem for us. It's not going to be necessarily the inflation. It's not going to necessarily be the housing market. It's going to be the consumer debt. So now that we have a low consumer debt right now, right? Because during the quarantine, people had extra money, or they weren't paying their mortgage, they didn't have to, or they didn't have to pay their rent. And they said, I'm going to use this money to make sure I don't have any debt. And then, of course, the student loans were at 0%. So people were paying after student loans. Some people said, I'm going to wait for Joe Biden to forgive my student loans, because he said on the campaign, well, student loans, you shouldn't have to pay those. I'm going to take care of them, basically, is what he said. And then he comes out later after he's elected. Yeah, we just don't have enough money for that, guy. Sorry about that. Okay. Right? Not a problem. Broken promises. We don't care about those. So regardless of that, now we have problems when we're homeowners. We need a new roof. We need a new pipe because the pipe broke, especially during the Texas freeze. If you're in Texas, right? A lot of things might have happened. You're a homeowner. You're liable for all that. And if insurance didn't cover anything, or if you didn't have insurance at the time, maybe you let it lapse, whatever it was, a lot of people are going to be hurting if something happens to them, if something happens to the home. So now they're trying to figure out what to do. And you might just be making enough right now. Maybe your job is like, well, if you don't get the vaccine, you're going to have to leave, and you decide to leave. Now you're just working on your nest egg, and before you know it, your nest egg is gone. Many things can happen, but here's the most logical steps for the foreclosure. We are going to have the inflation. Interest rates are going to go up. There's going to be more homes on the market for sale, and people are not going to buy them because the interest rates are going up. And people are going to say in their mind, oh, well, interest rates were cheaper in 2020. Why am I going to pay a higher interest rate? I'll just wait. I'm okay where I am. So they settle. But then the problems start to happen. Now inflation is a problem. Maybe their job is not paying enough anymore. And they don't have enough for their mortgage. They don't have enough for their taxes. They don't have enough for the repairs that they had to do. Their credit cards are maxed. So now the debt that we got rid of, Americans or people just in general in the world, is coming back. So now that debt is coming back, what is going to happen? Now people don't have money. There's no credit under their name. So they are not able to pay for their home. The bank comes and they say, well, where's our mortgage money? And you say, well, I don't have it. Well, they are going to put your home on foreclosure. And this is going to be a mass foreclosure that's going to happen. And it could be worldwide. I'm not saying it's only going to happen in the United States, because it's very possible it can happen worldwide, where people run out of credit. And then when we look at the reason for the Great Depression, was because people were buying stocks and bonds and mutual funds on credit. And then eventually they're like, where's the money? Boom, crash. And then now we have a foreclosure problem impending in the future. I don't know how long this could take. It could take up to 7 years, but it's going to happen. People bought a home and they don't have money to buy a home. This is the whole millennial type of thinking. I need it. I want it. I must have it. And I don't care what it takes for me to get it. Well, they don't care that it's going to be taken away either. Because if they did their homework, they would realize being a homeowner is more than just signing a piece of paper. It requires responsibility. And then we look at, are the young minds of our generation responsible? You could say yes, you could say no. We can argue about that. But for most people, they don't have a sense of responsibility. There's no urgency in their life. So they're not going to care if their home goes to foreclosure. They might go back to mom or dad if they can. They might move in with a roommate. They'll carry on with their life. It doesn't matter about the economy for them. So for all the people who are dealing with anxiety of what's going to happen in the economy, I don't want you to be fearful of what is the next step. I want you to understand where you should be putting your money right now. And you can put your money in assets like homes. You can put your money into stocks and things like that, but to do it cautiously and not to just keep your money in the bank or under your mattress, because inflation is going to eat away at that money. You do want to buy assets, but be careful how you buy them. If you are going to flip and you know you can flip it quickly, if you know how to do it, make sure you know how to do it. Flip it quickly. And you can keep doing that and you can stay afloat. But I know many people who are trying to make a quick dollar and it's not working out because they don't understand the mindsets of people. People are down and out right now. That means people don't understand, hey, I don't know what tomorrow holds for me. So what do I do? How do I get out of this? And the solution is to hold on. Get ready for the ride. Think of you're going up the roller coaster, and you're going to eventually fall. Is make sure you got a seatbelt and you're tucked in very nicely, because whatever turns and flips that you have to go through is a challenge. And those challenges are going to help elevate you later, but you do have to go through those difficulties now. And you might hit rock bottom. You might lose everything. But just because you lose everything doesn't mean you have to give up. So you have to keep on with the hope. You have to keep on with the plan. And as long as you can focus on something positive, on something that's going to bring a better life, you're going to be able to hit it at a higher efficiency. But for the people who are afraid, the people who are taking their money and they're saying, I'm not going to spend anything, that's more harmful. Continue to grow. Maybe you want to start a business. Maybe you decide to invest 10, 15%. And if we look at how the wealthy invest versus how we invest, we should know how to invest, first of all, but then we should also be careful with how we place all of our money. And I always tell people the best investment you can ever make in your life is investing in your mind. So for people who are uncertain, they don't know what to do, invest in yourself. Make sure you can become a better person. Make sure you are in a better position. Invest in yourself. Whatever you need to be able to get out on the other side the best you can, that is going to be the solution. And for some people, it's going to be coaching. Some people is going to be investing in assets. Some people is going to be starting a business. And you have to determine where you are. I was lucky enough to have started my business before all of the pandemic, all of what was going on, and I was able to stay afloat. And you can imagine during the pandemic, what happened? People had a lot of mental issues. And I believe it was the Washington Post, they were talking about a rise in mental cases that people had to deal with. And that rise didn't come out of nowhere. People are already stressed. People already have severe anxiety. People are already confused about what they need to do in their life. So, adding on to that is just making everything worse. So, though our system is falling, it doesn't mean that we have to fall with it. Remember that. My name is Michael Reardon. I'm a mindset coach here in Austin, Texas. You can email me if you have any questions, coachinginsession@gmail.com. And until then, everyone, take care. All right. So I did end the podcast. So the podcast is over. I will be here to answer chat questions. So if you have any questions for chat, shoot them and we could talk about them. This won't be on the podcast for like Apple, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, but it will be just something we share together. Actually will be on YouTube because YouTube will hold this, but I'll just clip it out. So if you have any questions, drop them in chat and we will get to those questions. Thank you, Miranda, for subscribing, logging in, watching the show. Much appreciated. Sandra, thank you so much. Tiger Shark, saw your comment. Thank you again. And I know, Tiger Shark, you were talking about something. You say that hate is controlling the world, and it's just a way that people are making people controlled in the sense of, if I can make you dislike a type of person, then that means whatever I say about that type of person, you're going to believe me and then act in my favor. So, yeah, that hate could be bad. So, it's going to be easier to pay off that 40K with or without inflation, because inflation is just going to make your dollar weaker. But you do have to have a plan for that 40K in debt. And if it's mostly credit card debt and not student loan debt, you can figure out a plan. My advice to you, if it's credit card debt, is to pay it off as quick as possible. And if you have to cut corners in the sense of, all right, well, instead of me going out on 2 date nights every week or every month, I'm going to go on one. And Tiger Shark. So yeah, it is our economy though, right? It is our livelihood. So when we think about it, when when America suffers, we suffer in a sense. If you're American, I'm not sure if you live here in the States, because America is made up of the people. And what has happened over the years is that people forgot how powerful they were, right? So now the government thinks that they're the big boss leaders, and we have to succumb to whatever the big boss says. So you want to not think of it as it's their system because it's ours. We just have to retake it. Okay, no, Miranda, that's a great question because we do have to understand our money, right? We do have to understand how that's going to work for us, and for it, yeah, and of course, situations are going to come. I know many people who take out uh, liens on their house, or they'll take out a second mortgage because something comes up, and a home can have enough equity where you can borrow against it. I know people who borrow from their 401, their 401ks, and they're able to pay it back before they have to pay taxes on it. So it's very possible to use what you have and come out without having any negative effects. But if you can get into a position where you can prosper, that would be most ideal. All right, finish up those questions. I do have to edit this podcast for Spotify and all that. But I know some of you are InfoWars supporters, so thank you so much for supporting Alex and what he does. He's an amazing gentleman. He's a great friend. He's someone who has the best intentions for people. And and if you are a supporter of his, I thank you for that. And yes, Miranda, you can all I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for anyone to join in live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Trovo, and what's the other ones? A few other ones. Yeah, just two other ones. I forget their names, but yeah. And thank you so much, Miranda, again for reading the content, the blogs. Of course, if you are in a situation and you just needed some advice, I have so many blogs and so many articles for you to or anyone to go read and to say, okay, well, I have this problem. And you can find the solution within my blogs and read through it. And then the next steps can come from that. But for now, I'll see you Monday, Miranda, and Tiger Shark. Thank you so much for your questions today. I will see. And who else was there? Sandra Snow. Thank you so much for joining in also. But for now, everyone, take care and have